The war in Ukraine has reached a critical point as both sides fight for control of key towns and cities that hold strategic value. One such town is Soledar. The battle in Soledar has been ongoing for months. The eastern town of Ukraine has been the site of intense battles. The Russian military's approach to the war in this region is characterized by a highly centralized system that limits the capabilities of junior officers and non-commissioned officers. This structure, combined with the high number of casualties among these ranks, has resulted in a shortage of good leaders on the ground. Additionally, many of the Russian soldiers brought into the war lack the sense of purpose and motivation that the Ukrainian soldiers possess, which has been a major factor in Ukraine's ability to hold its own and even push back against Russian aggression. Another point to consider is the involvement of the Wagner Group, a private army that operates in close proximity to the Russian military. The Wagner Group also shares resources and training facilities with the Russian army. If we look at the last few weeks, it looks that the Wagner Group is the only group that has succeeded to make some advances in Ukraine. For the last few days, the Wagner Group has claimed that they have captured Soledar. The Russian authorities were silent about the Wagner Group's claims, but last Thursday, the Russian Defense Ministry verified the claim and stated that it now controls Soledar completely. But on the other hand, reports from the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense suggest that Ukrainian forces are still holding positions within the town, while Ukrainian telegram channels such as Deep State, along with images released by Wagner Group forces, indicate that Russian forces have occupied the central area of the town. Those Ukrainian forces that remain seem to be on the western edge of the town, where they are working to keep Russian forces away from the important railway and highway just west of Soledad. The situation in Soledar is uncertain as competing reports and videos emerge from both sides, making it difficult to determine the true state of the town. The Ukrainian ambassador to the UK said on a TV show that Soledar is an important place, but it wouldn't mean victory or a huge loss if it was lost. He added that for Ukrainians it would mean giving up the salt because Soledar is famous for its salt mines. He stated that the Russians are throwing hundreds of lives into Soledar because they're trying to present something to their leader that they managed to acquire. After hearing the news that the Ukrainian Deputy Minister of Defense had announced that a fierce battle is continuing on the Soledar front and that they are still holding strong, the Ukrainian ambassador said that there is not much of Soledar left and that the Russians have already destroyed their whole town. He added that Soledar is not even the size of a town and just a bit bigger than a village. He also suggested that it could even be wiser to leave Soledar to save Ukrainians' lives and rather focus on Bakhmut, for example. He continued and said that Soledar is a very localized place and that it's not a big deal, and that the south of Ukraine is more important, which is also why their efforts are more concentrated in that region. Soledar's capture may be a symbolic victory for Russia, but the town's true importance lies in the potential for future advancements. The Russians think that Soledar is a strategic place, and capturing it would make it easier to gain territory in Bakhmut and disrupt the supply and communication of the Ukrainian army. In addition to the confusion in Soledar, the situation in the area north of Bakhmut has remained largely unchanged in the last few days. Additional images and videos have allowed for a better understanding of the boundaries of the Russian advance, but reports of small Russian assaults being repulsed from Krasnopolivka and other points north of Bakhmut suggest that Russia has not yet secured control of the area enough to launch a major next step. The Bakhmut area has already been reduced to rubble, and many other towns and villages nearby have also suffered, but Ukraine is determined to keep fighting at Bakhmut to prevent other towns, villages, and cities from suffering the same fate. Bakhmut is important because it's a sacrifice to protect other towns and cities from being captured by the Russian army. Despite the uncertainty of the situation, it is clear that Russia's advance in the area has been significant. 2 weeks ago, the line of dispute passed through the villages of Bakhmutsky and Novokamyanka. Since then, Russia has pushed the boundary in this area approximately 5 kilometers to the northwest. This was done despite the fact that Ukrainian forces were largely occupying defensive positions that had been prepared over weeks or months, using tactics of heavy artillery followed by waves of infantry that have been consistently used by Russian forces across multiple conflicts. It may be easy to dismiss Bakhmut as not being a strategic target, but both Ukraine and Russia view this area as being worth the cost of thousands of lives. In Russia's case, some estimates place the number of losses at around 20,000 in this one location alone. However, it is important to understand the broader context of the conflict. Bakhmut is located at the center of a series of road and rail junctions, making it an important prize for Russia as it would give them better access to the surrounding area and make it harder for Ukraine to supply their frontline troops. Therefore, the situation in Soledar and the area north of Bakhmut are critical to the outcome of the war. So, is the Bakhmut area important? The answer is yes. Despite the fact that the capture of Kramatorsk seems less likely than it did before, the Bakhmut area is still important. It holds not just tactical value in terms of being at a transportation nexus, but symbolic value as the one place where Russia can point to wins, no matter the cost. Russia is still trying to capture the remainder of Donetsk Oblast, and no matter how unlikely that now seems, Ukraine has to fight them somewhere. If they walk away from the Bakhmut area, they'll just be doing this somewhere else. The city of Kramatorsk and its neighboring town Slovyansk are widely recognized as a key strategic target for Russia. Since the Russian occupation of Donetsk city in 2014, Kramatorsk has become the de facto capital of Donetsk Oblast in Ukraine. It is the most populous, industrialized, and valuable location in the region. Russia's goal of capturing all of Donetsk Oblast is closely tied to their desire to control Kramatorsk because it is the most valuable location in the area. By midsummer, Russia had that area surrounded and expected to place Kramatorsk in a pincer that closed on it from all sides. Bakhmut, Soledar, Bakhmutske, Optin, and other nearby towns and villages have already been devastated. Ukraine has a moral obligation to protect other towns and villages from suffering the same fate. The reasoning behind this is not just because Russian casualties are high, but because feeding the meat grinder is just how Russia fights. Bakhmut is a sacrifice to protect others. Zelensky has acknowledged the need for more support in the ongoing war against Russia. Despite setbacks and logistical challenges, Russia's capture of Soledar is a boost to morale. Statistics show that Ukraine has been firing as many heavy artillery shells in a week as the US produces in a month. This highlights the need for increased support for Ukraine in their fight against Russia. Zelensky has called for more aid, including Patriot missiles and tanks. However, these advancements alone will not be enough to secure a victory. The US Navy Secretary has stated that by the summer, the Navy may have to choose between arming itself and arming Ukraine. To secure a victory, the West and the US will have to make significant sacrifices in terms of war economy and supply. This commitment has yet to be made, and the outcome of the war remains uncertain. Thanks for watching.